Hey everybody, today we're going to continue with our discussion of language development, and we're going to look at stages of language development and theories of language acquisition today. First, we're going to back up just for a slide. I do want to mention one or two more things about language structure that we didn't get to in our previous video. And one of those principles is that language really has two different structures in it, that we have two different thought processes while we produce and comprehend language. The first thing I want to look at is called surface structure. And surface structure of language simply refers to the word strings that people use to convey messages and thoughts. So basically it's just the type of words you use to say what you want to say. An example would be, Joey was swinging too high, he slipped and hit his head hard on the ground. Surface structure refers to the words I use to convey my message to a potential listener. Deep structure, however, is the meaning of the words and the meaning of the message I'm trying to convey to you. So when I say something, I'm using surface structure, but what am I meaning? What is the message I'm conveying? So if I say Joey hurt his head when he fell off the swing, notice that there are different surface structures between those two examples, between the first and the second example, but the deep structure is the same. Joey got hurt when he fell off the swing. So when we talk about surface and deep structure, we need both, but producing language is a different task than understanding language. Producing language means I go from deep structure, so I know what I want to convey in my brain, and then I turn that into a surface structure. I choose words to use using grammar of my language. Understanding language, understanding what the communicator or the messenger is sending to you, means you go from their surface structure and then you create a deep structure within your own brain using concepts and schemas. So sometimes those things don't match, surface and deep structure from the receiver and the messenger, because they are two different tasks. Okay? We're going to move on now to language development. This is a really interesting part of language. We'll see a couple of short video clips here. And basically kids learn language at a very early age in a very fast clip. Statistically, after the age of about 1, we learn about 3,500 words a year, which sounds like way too many. But by the time you graduate from high school later this year, for most of you, you're going to know about 60,000 words, give or take, in your language. Some more, some less. And we'll talk about why having a larger vocabulary is important and meaningful. So let's take a look at stage development. And when do we learn stage? When do we learn a stage? I want to back up here just for a second and move forward here. We learn in about four distinct stages. The first stage that we notice that you've probably read about is the babbling stage. You've probably said you're babbling, you're not making sense. And that begins about 4 months when an infant just spontaneously utters various sounds. And researchers have suggested that babbling is not imitation of adult speech. It's just making sounds using their language device. But we might notice that those sounds become more and more distinctly unique to the language at the home. So we're going to take a look at a short video clip here and listen to a baby making some sounds. So pay attention.
I'm not sure it matters if you're chewing on the cup. ba 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 ba.
Okay, that's just about enough of that for right now. That is an example of a baby making spontaneous sounds, and linguistics experts who study language believe that the baby's not actually trying to convey any meaning with that they're just making some sounds. Now, at about this time that babies start to babble, they start to develop a receptive language, which means they're receiving language from other people, and they're starting to break it down and understand it. So as early as 4 months, babies are starting to their brains are starting to be able to predict speech patterns in their native language. They can recognize distinct sounds as pleasant or unpleasant, and to some extent they can read lips, but not the way you think they do. Brain scans seem to indicate that while babies watch lips from a speaker, they actually start to learn to predict what sounds are going to be coming from certain lip movements. And they're able to segment their native language, which means they're able to discern between one word ends and the next word begins. In our language, we take that for granted, but if we're learning a different language and speaking with a native speaker, it's very difficult to segment one word from another, whether or not you're speaking slow or not. Productive language is when we start to produce language that communicates meaning. And this begins really with the one-word stage at about a child's first year. They start to speak in one-word statements, and they can make family members actually understand what they're doing. However, a single word may mean the surface structure of the word dog may have many different deep structure meanings, and it may be hard for that child to communicate. So dog may actually mean, look at the dog out there in our yard. What is it doing there? I want to go pet that dog. That dog scares me a lot because it's big. Okay. We already did that one. Sorry about that, folks. The next significant stage is the two-word stage, and conveniently that begins about the second year, when kids start to use two-word statements. This is called telegraphic speech because the child speaks like old telegrams used to be sent, and since they were costly and time-consuming, telegraph operators would break a statement down into few words like arrive shortly or need assistance. So a child who says go car, the surface structure might actually mean deep structure, I would like to go for a ride in the car to the store, please take me. You might get an idea of why kids who are 2 and 3 years old have a lot of temper tantrums, because they have difficulty conveying the deep structure that they mean because they have limited speech capabilities. So they might get frustrated. Let's take a look at a fairly humorous example of a child who's clearly in the two-word stage. Watch carefully and see if you can come up with a couple of examples.
What?
Get up!
What do you want me to do?
Slide.
What? Let go. Let go of the strap. Tell Grandma, what do you want me to do?
Get in.
In what?
Water.
And what do you want me to do?
Drown.
Drowned? No, I don't think you want Grandma to drown. Carson,
Come on.
how do you ask nicely?
Mom, please drown.
Very nice, right? So there's a couple of examples in there of telegraphic speech. Get up, get in, please drown. So if you ask the kid the right questions, you can actually get a lot out of them in this stage. Longer phrases, there's really, some books actually talk about a three-word stage, but most books just really say after the telegraphic speech level or stage, the kids really start to amass a much larger and more sophisticated language production. So they follow pretty good syntax in their language, and they start to use longer sentences and understand humor. For example, a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old might understand you never starve in the desert because of all the sandwiches there. And that's kind of a funny joke, get a sandwich. Let's take a look at a really precocious young girl who's trying to explain Star Wars, what Star Wars movie is about, with Luke and Darth Vader.
Okay. The sound people capture robots and drive and sell them in a garage sale, kind of like garage sale, but except they're selling robots. And no one's gonna buy R2 and the shiny guy. The shiny guy always worries. Luke's gonna buy those. Kenobi's kind of a teacher. He's teaching Luke how to learn how to do his little light-up sword. He has to try to block the little Pokeball. He tried to do it without seeing. Kenobi sometimes moves things around. Sometimes he disappears. Princess Leia got out of jail and out of the spaceship. And they got the big thing that blowed up stuff. We blowed it up together. It blowed up Princess Leia's planet. But don't talk back to Darth Vader. He'll get ya. It's an exciting movie.
One of my favorite language videos of all time. Now notice she did have limitations with her shallow structure communication, the shiny guy and blowed up, the planet blowed up, but her deep structure was pretty good, pretty accurate. So there you have some language development stages and a little summary here, approximately what month over on the left here, and with the developmental stage milestones over here, okay? So you want to review that so you can be able to explain that to somebody else. And in the next video, we're going to move on to explaining language acquisition. So thanks a lot for listening. Feel free to rewind and review your notes, and we'll use our knowledge in class to solve some language application questions.